What if the thing holding your photography business back isn't your photography? What if it's video? Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Camera Shake podcast, the podcast that gives you the insider scoop on all things photography and videography, bringing you the kind of knowledge and expertise you won't find anywhere else. As always, I'm your host, Kersten Luts, and today we're diving into something that's becoming harder and harder to ignore: video editing for photographers. Because whether you like it or not, we're now living in a video-first world. Social media, marketing, client expectation, it's all shifting. And the question is no longer, should photographers learn video, but how much do you actually need to know? And here's the good news: you don't need to become a full-time videographer, but understanding the basics of video editing, well, that could be the difference between getting seen and getting overlooked. So to help break this all down, I'm joined by our special guest, video editor par excellence, Bayleigh Dilloway, who is going to walk us through exactly what photographers need to know in 2026. So from the essential editing skills to the best software options, and even how AI is changing the game. We'll also be jumping into a practical demo, keeping things simple and actionable. So by the end of this episode, you'll have a clear idea of where to start and how to use video to actually grow your photography business. And by the way, if you are listening on audio, make sure you check that out over on YouTube, where you can actually see Bayleigh go through the whole thing on his computer. So that's going to be super useful. But before we get into it, if you enjoy the podcast and want to support what I do, you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/camerashake. It really helps keep the show going. And don't forget to check out the Camera Shake newsletter and the latest merch all over at camerashakepodcast.com. All right, let's get into this. Bayleigh, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's great. I mean, second time coming.
Second time, yes, exactly. You're a second timer.
Yeah.
The last time we were in Ireland, we were talking about the little Kickstarter video that we're making over there. And I thought it'd be really useful to actually talk about, what photographers really today in 2026 really need to know about video editing. And, with that in mind, the first question would logically be, why is video editing becoming so important nowadays?
Well, because video editing is the most important. I think it's just, the landscape's very much changed from what it was X amount of years ago. And I'm in particular talking about like social media, because obviously, there's always going to be photography for like, whether it's something corporate where people want headshots, or weddings, or people want memories and they want them captured and they want them in physical, in books, etc. But when it comes to, for example, social media, it has completely changed. 10, 15 years ago, Instagram was like one of the leading mobile phone apps. Well, it still is, but for different reasons. Back then, it was more photography based. And I also think that kind of ties into like the change in tech, because back then, when Instagram was first booming, it would have been like, for example, the iPhone 4 that was like the trending. And obviously, predating that, you've got things like MySpace and Facebook's still obviously huge, but for me, and obviously my generational outlook, Instagram was the one that was a photography first app. However, nowadays, and I think, it's the change in landscape. People now are more adapted to video. People want more video. People want movement. People want their attentions to be sucked in. And video just simply does that a lot better than photography. And going back to what I was saying about changing tech, for example, yeah, back then it would have been like the iPhone 4, which could have taken like, this is a 14 or whatever, but it could have taken like okay photography at the time for like for a mobile phone, but obviously the video would have been lacking. But as time's gone on, the mobile phones have gotten better at taking video, so video just became a lot more prevalent on these platforms. And obviously, we all know that these companies, they make their money for advertising, etc. So they do profit from people being on these sites for longer, and these apps for longer. So in a way, they kind of they change to the field, they change to the demographic and what people want. And currently that is video. And actually, something interesting is that I also feel like it's changed a third time. I think it went from photo to video editing, because now everything is cut fast, and it's cut like in order to really try and compete now, you have to be able to know how to cut something that will keep people engaged.
That's actually an interesting thing, because I remember when Instagram first brought out stories,
Yes.
and I think the original idea was to basically, to give you an opportunity to sort of document your day.
Yeah.
I think that's why I call it stories in the first instance. And so, you could post pictures, but you could also post little video clips. And I remember after a few years, they extended the length of the video clip that you could post.
Yeah.
And I think I thought then, okay, well, everything's now focusing on video, clearly, because, by being able to post longer clips, you can now tell more of a story, literally in
Yeah,
stories.
true.
And then, of course, Reels became a thing, and so, it's safe. So, the thing I'm always wondering is, like, whether this whole thing is driven by social media, or whether it's driven by, client expectations, or whether these two things kind of hang together. Social media platforms want you to stay on those platforms for as long as possible. That's what the algorithm does. At the same time, it lives off advertising income, so therefore it wants advertisers to come to the platform. And now, if you don't advertise on those platforms, you're quite clearly losing out.
Yeah,
So,
missing out on a big market.
yeah,
Because, the thing as well is, like, whilst it's very easy to just be like, oh yeah, it's the big companies that are, like, pushing all this stuff, at the same time they do, but they also do follow along with what people are into. And as times are changing and people are, you know, back so many years ago, for example, for video, if you wanted to post a video, say on YouTube or something, and you wanted it to be high quality, you needed a camera. Like, straight up, you needed a camera, which already meant, you have to sink some budget in, you have to spend some money, or you have to just naturally have already been into videography or whatever. But now it's completely different. You can shoot some very nice looking stuff just on a mobile phone, like a iPhone or Samsung or whatever. And now, and what I was saying a moment ago is how I feel like it shifted from photo to video to editing, is because now it's taken that video to the next step. We now have phones that can shoot cool things. Cool. I, personally, no, it's true. Like, I'm completely open to being, like, wrong, but I just don't see the phone's video getting noticeably better than it already is. I mean, if you compare, like, my phone to the phone a year prior to the newest phone now, there are differences and it is better, but it's not the same difference as going from, like, an iPhone, like, 4, for example, to an iPhone 7. That difference is huge. But compared to now, it's not increasing as much. So, okay, so what is it that people want? What are going to do differently to stand out? Well, it's editing, and it's the way you cut it, the way that you tell the story, the way that you engage people. People are now obviously so exposed to video and so exposed to all sorts of media. They need a reason to stay and keep watching. And which is what ties in with the algorithm, why the algorithm is so particular with what it shows. And, like, back, like, 10 something years ago, it did really feel like posting could genuinely be a jackpot. Like, you could just post anything and there was a chance it could have done well, or it could have found its audience or its niche. And now it really feels like you have to go into a video knowing how you're going to cut it in order to optimize, like, how it's going to do and everything, which has its pros and cons. If you are someone that just wants to make something creative and just fun and stuff, in a way you're kind of stuck, because not everyone's going to have the attention span to watch. And it also depends on your audience as well. Like, if you're targeting a wider general audience, then yeah, you're going to need to make sure that you cut it to appeal to a lot of people. But if your audience is very small or niche, then you have a bit more leeway, because people are going to watch it anyway. But it is, the algorithm is so different to what it was, like, X amount of years ago, that it is becoming very, very competitive now.
it's true what you're saying, because I remember, again, going back to when Instagram first launched stories, and at the time, most people were just filming little snippets with their phones. And I remember thinking, oh, this would be a cool opportunity to create, like, fully edited
Yeah.
little clips. And then, and the fact that they would disappear within 24 hours was actually kind of that's fun.
Yeah,
That's the fun part. It's like,
yeah,
oh,
it's like a gimmick.
yeah, yeah,
The gimmick, like, the gimmick that was quite cool, and it was, the art scene, but fun and experimental.
exactly. And so at the time, I went all in. I did a clip or story every week. And it took days to script, to plan and script
Yeah.
and record everything. And it's sort of gained quite a lot of quite a bit of attention at the time. But I feel like when I look at the landscape now, when I look at Reels and TikTok and stories, like virtually every clip looks like that. It looks much better edited, much better produced in a sense, And so I'm wondering whether, obviously, we as photographers are not the only people noticing this. It's our clients who are noticing this, and at the same time, then we'll have completely different expectations when it comes to video assets for their for their businesses. And whilst 10, 15, 20 years ago, there may have been a budget, to hire a photographer and a separate video company. I think now we'll see increasingly that expectation just, the expectation is that there's one provider who will do both,
I think that kind of stems from a bunch of things. But I think one of the main things, which, to be fair, people might have spoken about it, but I don't know if it's as common. I think it's the fact that these people can kind of do the things themselves. I think when you have a mobile phone that can take photos and videos, and for a lot of people, they can't really discern between what's shot on a phone and what's shot on a camera. They look at it themselves and think, well, I could just do the photos and videos myself. So you're a professional, like you should be able to do everything, kind of thing. I think that's where it comes from. But it is true. It would have been like everything would have been a lot more separated, and it is kind of a shame that more and more things are being expected to be done by one man only.
But it's probably also the fact that you can use your phone to do both, shoot videos and take pictures, and then you consume it in the same way all the time, that line between the two gets completely blurred, And so now, it's like you said, the expectation is if I can do it on my phone, if I can do both of these things, then if I hire you as a professional, you're absolutely right. Then the expectation, the base level expectation is that you can do the same thing. And I've really noticed that, over the last, definitely since the pandemic, so over the last 5 years, I would say, the proportion of video that I now do as part of jobs has massively risen. I mean, it used to be probably about, it's a guesstimate, it probably used to be about 5% before the pandemic. It's way over 50% now. There virtually almost always is an expectation of some video component in there.
But I mean, at least on the positive side of that, as a photographer, there is obviously more you need to learn about videography, but you still know a lot of the fundamentals about videography. Like you'll know how to, as I said earlier, composite a shot, like framing. You'll know like how to use a camera. It's just translating some of those techniques and language into just something that's moving. So I think a lot of photographers can go into videography fine, and it's also a great way to you can still expand your skill set. And I actually think there's a lot to learn in photography by doing other things. Like, for example, when it comes to video editing, if you know how to edit a video, I still think it can elevate your photography. It can make you think outside the box when it comes to photography. Because when you're doing photography, you're thinking with a very much a photographer's mindset. But if you know how to shoot video and edit video, or even like do motion graphics in a way, it can help you with your photography. Say you need to take a photo of, like, I don't know, say an artist against a graffiti wall, and you know that photo is going to be used, let's say, on their social media pages and stuff, on like a carousel on Instagram or something. They're going to want some light graphics on top. Well, then you can take the photo and almost envision where the graphics are going to be, because you would have known how to make them, and you would have known what kind of graphics work, whether you're going to add like some sort of drop shadows on it. So okay, well, if the graphics is going to be in on the bottom right, I don't really want too much there. And also, like, lighting wise, if there's going to be some shadow on the graphics, okay, do I light it like this, or is it going to look okay? Obviously, I'm assuming many photographers know how to do this anyway, and it's not like this is making it sound like you need to know how to edit photos to be able to do a poster, for example. It's not true. It's making it more complicated than it is.
But it's an interesting thing, because there's kind of the conversation I've had in the past with like graphic designers, for example, because they get photographs from photographers, and half the time they slap their face because they think like, oh man, I need to make the space here because that's where the title needs to go, and so and in the past we've often talked about photographers being mindful of the further use of that image. For instance, on a billboard or as a poster or whatever, to just remember that the graphic designer has to place that text somewhere. But now the same thing is really true for video.
Yeah.
So do you think that's this is a temporary trend, or do you think this is the thing that's here to stay?
What, the graphic stuff or like doing everything?
Just doing everything, like doing video.
I think it's here to stay. I'm gonna be so honest. I think, especially because of AI and stuff, and it's, you know, the market's only ever driven by the consumer. Realistically, you know, we can push out as much stuff as we want, being like, trust me, you should try this thing that I'm going to offer because, you know, you want to do it. But, you know, if, for example, your average Joe that wants you to come in and quickly get some shots of his business, if he knows that he can do it on his phone, like a video on his phone, I think iMovie has like an AI editing thing now where you can just put the videos in, it fully creates a video with graphics and everything. If he knows he can do that, he's going to hear the word professional and think that you could do all of that way better. So
It's true. Absolutely.
so I think it's here to stay. I think obviously, you know, there's always going to be people that will just do one thing. Like I'm pretty certain, you know, I am certain there are people that only still shoot like weddings or newborns or whatever. That's here to stay. People are going to be doing that. I just think it is much more competitive. So if you really want to do one thing, you've got to be damn good you can do it well.
Yeah, and I think, I mean,
Yeah, damn sure you can do it well.
there are situations like weddings. Weddings is a good example where, you know, you realistically can't do both at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a situation where I think quite clearly you have to separate those.
It's like people that would, what I mean was like, for example, like someone that, you know, however many years ago would have only shot weddings. Like that was their job. They would have shot weddings, would have been it. Now there's a lot of people that are shooting everything. Like they'll go shoot boxing stuff.
Yeah.
And then the next day they're at a wedding doing stills and whatever. Like people are now doing a lot more to cover what originally would have been a lot less. And it's even more so now because it's no longer just one skill set like photography, it is everything. But the thing is with this mindset of you know, doing more, I don't think it just applies to creative fields. I think it is kind of every job now. And there are a lot of jobs where, even in retail, where you'll get hired for technically one job. Like, I don't know, you could be in a warehouse doing, your sole job would have originally been to do one thing, whether it was packing or whatever. But then you go in and now you kind of have to do whatever's just there. Like you might have to clean, you might have to deal with people on the front desk, you might have to answer, which was never originally there, but it's just kind of something everyone does. And it's not people taking advantage of you, it's just kind of what everyone's kind of doing now. So I think it's just a kind of a more like global thing rather than just a creative thing. But I do think it shows a lot more in creative fields because it genuinely is entirely different skill sets. Like also the very word video editor has changed dramatically because now you hear video editor, you think the entire video. When back before, a video editor was just a cutter most of the time. It was just the person that cut. You have the colorist, you have the graphic designer, you have the VFX artist, you'd have all of that. But now, especially with social media, you hear video editor and it encompasses all of it. So that's another giant thing that's dramatically changed. And even video editing, when people will hire you as a video editor, a lot of people now expect all that. Maybe less so the VFX part and 3D and etc. But they expect, you know, they expect graphics, they expect color grading, they expect audio. So that's an entirely different ballpark, but people still expect it. So you need to be able to do it. Whether or not you do it to the level of someone that specializes it is, you know, up for discussion. But you just have to be able to kind of do it.
Now, let's talk about some real world use cases. So, where should photographers be using video right now?
I think in promotion. I think if you're trying to get more clients or you're trying to put yourself out there, social media, websites, portfolios, I think you need video. And I think you need video that shows that shows you off very well. I think, you know, some people will still like seeing, you know, their photos and stuff. Like photos are where they swipe and they can see all your photos. But I think as people are so video centric now, even if you show photography in video, like some people now to promote themselves, they will do like half BTS, half final product things. What they'll do is they'll, for example, say if you're taking a photo of something, they'll get someone to do video behind them, recording them, and then it'll be the tag being like currently doing a photo shoot, and then it cuts to what the photographer's actually shooting to kind of show off the product, just to make things more engaging so people can see. And even with, for example, like Instagram ads or YouTube ads or all these ads, video always typically does better than photos. So like simply as they usually just do better because people can get engaged with a video and be like, oh, okay, cool. Obviously not everyone. There's still a large portion of people that like to stick to the old ways of searching someone up online, looking at their videos, sorry, not their videos, their photos, and then being like, oh, these are cool photos, then let me hire them. But for a large percentage of people, which are now kind of switching more to just being on social media, scrolling through reels, and what is it on Facebook? Is it reels as well?
Yeah, it's reels.
Yeah, reels and Facebook and YouTube shorts. Like, people are just watching video. I mean, I know it from even people, like parents, for example. I'm seeing my parents, they would sit there and look at timelines on Facebook. Even grandparents, they originally would scroll through timelines on Facebook, which was like text and photos. And now I'm seeing them using TikTok and stuff, and it's just video. So I think it's immensely important. And also just to expand your skill set and be able to like edit video.
Hey, let me just jump in real quick to tell you about the amazing sponsor of this episode, Platypod. Platypod offers innovative camera support systems designed to unleash your creativity. With their stable, versatile, and portable solutions, you can capture stunning shots like never before. And I'm not just saying that. As the host of the Camera Shake podcast, I can personally vouch for Platypod's incredible products. They've become an integral part of the show. In fact, I'm surrounded by various Platypod products holding up lights, cameras, microphones, and so on. It's really helped to transform the way I make the show and the way I shoot at home, in the studio, and on location. But don't just take my word for it. Explore Platypod's website at www.platypod.com to discover their range of products, including the Platypod Extreme, Platypod tripod heads, and the brand new handle, of course. Make sure to follow Platypod on Instagram and Facebook at Platypod Tripods for exclusive updates, tips, and giveaways. By choosing Platypod, you're not only investing in your photography, but you're also supporting the Camera Shake Photography Podcast. Thanks again to Platypod, our amazing sponsor. Platypod, where innovation never sleeps. It's an interesting thing, last night we were talking about ordering food. Yeah. Do you remember? And you said something like, oh yeah, but in the olden days or something, when people used to call up restaurants to order, deliveries and stuff like that.
I said it was
hold on. Because because obviously now everybody uses apps or whatever. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm just all of a sudden I felt like, yeah, because that's what I always do. I always phone places to order food, because I just can't be. To me, it's like, oh my god, loading the app and then looking through the app and blah. It's just too much kerfuffle. I'll just pick up the phone and call them. But it's one of these things that's generationally shifting, and I think you're right. I mean, it's the way that we consume content on social media, for example. The fact that this is so video centric now will ultimately mean that what our clients expect is also going to be video centric. That's the thing. So, all right, what is the easiest way to start using video as a photographer?
So, well, it depends on where you got your video from. Like, if you're, as a photographer, if your camera is able to shoot video, then just shoot video. Yeah, I'm sure there are many photographers have shot video before, if they enjoy it, or whether or not they're doing it as a hobby, like more of as the hobby side, whereas photography is more professional, or whether they just shot video in general. But as long as you have the video, you can kind of edit it with anything. Like, I would say it depends on what you want out of video editing as well. If you want, lots of control and you want to actually really get into video editing and learn all of the nitty-gritty, I would say, yeah, a PC software like Premiere, Final Cut, DaVinci would be great. But if you're someone that just wants to experiment, there's a plethora. Like, DaVinci I would recommend anyway for anyone, because it's free and it's there is an absolute ton you can do inside of DaVinci. And if you do then want to have the full version, it's just a one-off payment. And also, DaVinci does come with like industry standard color grading. I color grade in DaVinci, because that's just what everyone does, and you get a lot of control. and it's free, so it's awesome. But you could also get like other software such as like Filmora, which is another free one, but it's less popular. If you're on Mac, iMovie is genuinely fine for just cutting stuff up and adding. The graphics are kind of done for you. You don't have much control, but you can still get some experience and experiment with it. I think you can actually now have a bit more control over it, but there are a lot of like template-esque kind of graphics in it. You know, Final Cut is great if you can get a trial for it, or if it comes with your MacBook. I know Apple's now actually releasing a subscription for
the Creator Studio.
It's like what's it called?
I think it's Creator Studio. It's
Creator,
I think it's about £12 or is it $12 per month.
Yeah.
And it gives you also like a whole bundle of different things,
Yeah.
including Final Cut and Logic and
Exactly.
the Pixel Maker, something, whatever it's called. This is like the equivalent of Photoshop to everything.
Which is a crazy price, to be completely honest.
Yeah, in
comparison to other
Adobe.
Yeah.
For example, it has to be said. Yeah, I mean,
it's great, and not just to. I'm not into. You have to do your own research on this. I'm not sure if it's a contractual kind of thing where they advertise it as $12, but actually you have to pay for the whole year, or if it actually simply is just 12. Because if it is, then it's a good thing to try. Like, you can experiment and you can try. Final Cut's great. Final Cut is really good, and it's going to get better. It was from my point of view, it was a lot bigger a little while ago.
Right.
But I think now it is. They are putting a lot more effort into trying to.
I think the thing with that is so the question at the moment is whether they're going to put more impetus, more funding behind the subscription version of Final Cut, because there's already a number of things that you can only get if you're a subscriber, like additional templates or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But it is certainly true for Final Cut on iPad as well. Because that's another thing.
That's what I wanted to get into as well. The fact that there are so many editing softwares now on iPad and iPhone, actually. Obviously, it's a bit more of a jump. When you're shooting on a camera, for example, it is a lot easier to get things on a laptop or computer or whatever. But if you do have a drive, or you have a way of moving your media over to an iPad or cloud, or whatever, you can actually edit very, very well on an iPad or an iPhone. There was a thing called Premiere Rush, but now I think it's just become Premiere Pro, like Premiere on iPhone and iPad. Final Cut is now just fully on iPad, or has been.
And there's a DaVinci version on iPad.
Yeah, and exactly, and there's a DaVinci version as well. And then obviously the Classico, just iMovie, because it's free. I don't actually know what the default editing software is on Android devices.
Oh, zero idea.
If not, they even have one.
I actually don't know.
But if you're someone who's genuinely just trying to get into it, you just want to cut, you just want to splice some things together and kind of tell a story, you can genuinely use kind of anything. Just as long, there's CapCut and stuff.
CapCut. Yeah.
CapCut is, the difference with CapCut is that it's more, I'd say it's more for social media. It's more when you're trying to make something very flashy, very quick, we're going to be doing this, and it cuts.
Do you know what's the deal with CapCut? Do you sign away, or if you're rights or something too?
So there's a big controversy with it. It's kind of everything you kind of upload is then
owned by CapCut. So
kind of thing. But if I was thinking about what's happening is, say if you are editing technically what's copyright content, if you edit with CapCut, and then I don't know exactly how it works. This is all this is nothing set in stone. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but it was if you use the copyright stuff and you get caught, or something happens where you get into trouble, you will then be liable just for editing copyright things, which you can do in every single other thing. And I think it's because of their AI and stuff. But CapCut, as bad as the management and all that is, and as the company can be, and all the controversies, as an editing app, it's not bad. It can do the job, and it's free for the most part. There are a lot of stuff in it which is paid, but you can edit a video. As I said, it's more for social media and make it flashy, and CapCut has millions of templates. That's the other thing as well. But I would steer away from templates if you're someone trying to actually learn how to edit. But yeah, as much as I want to fault them, I mean, the edit app's actually quite good, and it's on PC as well, and the PC version is even better than the mobile version. But yeah, so that's, you know, something that if you have access to, you can use. But if you are trying to get into proper video editing and you really want to have control over it, I would say, yeah, something like Premiere. If you're trying to get into film, for example, then there's a completely different, you learn how to use things like Avid.
Yeah.
Because Avid's great for working in large teams because of the way that the bin system works and all sorts. And if you're someone that doesn't even want to do just typical video editing and you want to do like VFX or motion graphics, yeah, there's like After Effects and stuff like that. After Effects is a great software to be able to know how to use, because you can make all sorts in After Effects.
And the good thing about that is both Premiere and After Effects is that a lot of people who are already paying for Creative Cloud would already have access to that, unless you're paying for the photography package.
Yeah.
But if you're already paying for
Lightroom, Photoshop,
yeah, and like Illustrator and stuff like that, and InDesign, then you already have
yeah, you already have
access to
After Effects
at no additional cost. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the difference of types of content that you could create. And one of the things I think you hear a lot about is BTS, or behind the scenes content. So what role does behind the scenes or BTS content play nowadays?
Well, I think BTS content is, you know, can be used in a number of ways. I think BTS content can just be used as an extra thing for the people that are really into what you're doing. Like, say if you're creating a campaign for like this product or something, you know, for a lot of people that are super into the product or super into the company or whatever, yeah, they might just watch the BTS content as is. But BTS content can now be used as a way to make something more engaging, because I think things have shifted and people now really like personal stuff. So if people are seeing behind the scenes content of, for example, you taking the photographs or something, they might be more inclined to hiring you or looking into your stuff or everything, because they feel more of a personal connection. And behind the scenes content can be all sorts. It can be like a thing where, say, like on your social media, you might make a quick video. It's like, so today we did this, and this, and these are my opinions on it. It went pretty well, da 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 da. Or it could be someone straight up just recording the whole behind the scenes of a photo shoot. And I think, you know, some people just like having, like, say if like you go to I don't know, someone has hired you to take photos of their newborn. If you have someone or yourself to just sit there and take like behind the scenes videos, some people just like the extra thing that they can have of the day.
And I'm wondering also whether it's like seeing, like, for instance, if you're thinking about hiring, let's say, a headshot photographer, right, to come to your company and take headshots of your team, and then, you know, you watch a behind the scenes clip of a particular headshot photographer doing exactly that, and you see how easy and uncomplicated it actually is, that might actually sway you to, you know, to pull the trigger and make that decision.
Yeah.
And so, so what type of content performs best on social media, just in general?
Well, it depends on, I think, you know, it depends on what content you're posting and also where you're posting it. I think, for example, like, in general, if I could only say one type of content, I would just simply say short form, but it's not necessarily the case. Because, for example, YouTube's now shifting to long form again, which is quite surprising. You'd think, you know, considering that everything's short now, people have switched. YouTube, for example, was switching to long. And what they found was TikTok and Instagram and all the reels are now starting to take up more of people's time on their phone. So people have now started replacing things like Netflix or just traditional TV with YouTube on their TVs. So people are now starting to watch longer videos on YouTube on TVs. And YouTube obviously loves that, because that means they can put more ads and they can make more money. And you really do notice it. If you scroll through YouTube, there are all sorts of things like video essays or people making longer tutorials or long this, long that. And it's all because people are starting to watch YouTube more on TVs. Things like Instagram and TikTok, obviously still short form and typically vertical type videos, and very quick, snappy, engaging videos.
I think the news is a really good example. I sort of found myself, through everything that's been going on in the world, like over the last, couple of years, I found myself virtually exclusively watching news things on YouTube as opposed to on traditional TV stations, like Sky News or whatever, and a lot of those clips would be 10, 15, 20 minutes long, or sometimes even longer, certain podcasts, for example, which can,
Yeah.
take up like an hour or something. But this is, I thought about this the other day. Actually, in fact, I had to reload my Sky News app on my TV because I hadn't used it in such a long time,
It's just so much more accessible to have it on a phone. It's just like you're on the go. Like some people, you don't want to be sitting there in the morning watching the TV when you could just do what you need to do and then look at your phone and then throughout the day look at what's going on.
And often, what I do is like I listen to, I actually did re-listen to YouTube content whilst I'm taking the dog out, so rather than actually watching it, like especially if it's a news thing, you don't necessarily have to see what's going on. So what mistakes do photographers make when creating video content typically? What do you think?
Oof. I think like everyone, doesn't necessarily just mean because you're a photographer that you make these mistakes, but I think it's not having like substance in the video. It's just shooting for the sake of shooting kind of thing. You'll find that, a lot when, making video. But at the same time, I think it's kind of necessary. I think you kind of need to just shoot whatever at first to try and understand what it means to shoot something more like substantive. Because I mean, no one's ever going to get it perfect off the rip. But if they've edited it, for example, the cuts might be too long in between, so they might like overextend the shot when it would actually be a lot better if it was a lot quicker. Or cutting things to make sense. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a skill and it takes time to learn. But I think all of these like mistakes like necessary. Like everyone makes them, whether or not you're into editing or not. These are all mistakes. When it comes to video, it might be things like lighting. As a photographer, you light for one frame, one singular impressive frame, and that frame might be the greatest frame ever. If your camera is aiming at the scene, and then it moves over to show the next bit, and the next bit is completely just dark, obviously it's gonna look like a BTS shot. So I think lighting, for a video scene is a bit of a different skill. But I think as a photographer, it's something that you can quickly adapt to and quickly understand how to do. And also for video, it might also be just knowing where to put your content. I mean, it really depends what you're shooting. It depends whether or not you're just shooting for fun, in which case don't listen to me. Like, who am I to tell you what to film? If it's just for fun, do whatever you want. But if it's something like, I don't know, something that you're trying to take to the next level, it's typically learning how to pacing. Pacing is probably just the biggest, most important part about editing. It's not making something drag too much and not making something too quick, and then learning which parts of your video and which clips are the most like substantive to then keep people engaged, and etc. So that's what I would say as some mistakes.
So somebody listening to this or watching this on YouTube, some photographers listening and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to throw myself into it. I'm going to start making something today. What's a simple video every photographer should create this week?
Okay. So I think start by thinking about what it is you like. I think it's got to be personal. It might be the case that you think to your life, and by personal, it doesn't necessarily mean something about you and your interest. It could be, say, like, oh yeah, my partner is doing this like Zumba course, or maybe I'll go film that. Or it could be like, oh, you have a hobby where you like going fishing, or okay, make a video out of that. It could be you've always wanted to start that podcast where you talk about photography. Okay, we'll record that. It could be absolutely anything. Just think about something that's personal to you, something that's involved in your life, and just film it. And then think about what it is, what kind of videos that you like watching, and then try to like splice those together so that you could really, really like watching films and you want to make your own sort of cinematic sort of video, just kind of documenting just a day in your life, whether it's fishing, going to the gym, going to work, going, commuting, going to a national park or whatever it is. Make it cinematic, make it kind of tell a story, with that story just being your day, and do that. Say maybe at night, you sit down, you put YouTube on and you watch someone, I don't know, cycling, as we know, someone cycling and documenting their trip and this and that. Okay, well, you really like the way they've done that. Okay, well then when you go fishing or when you go to your national park, edit it like that. Talk to the camera like that. Bring a mic with you, or just use a phone mic, or just use whatever you can. Document it like that. Say if you don't necessarily want to do the audio in the moment, okay, well then find a piece of content where people are recording stuff in the moment, but then adding a voiceover in post, and then kind of talking over what they did throughout the day. There's an absolute plethora of things that you can just dive straight into off the rip. And I think the most important part is just doing something that's important to you. And my method for that is always pick a subject that you're into, something you like, something you want to do, but then blend it with something that you like watching. Because then by doing that, you have something to watch, and you have something that you can take inspiration from, and something that you can analyze and kind of reverse engineer and make, but then you can blend it with something that you're truly passionate about. So for example, like a reason why that would work better than just doing whatever is because if you lean just to something you're interested in, you have nothing to reference yourself to what you want to do. You're simply just filming what you want. And some people, that works perfectly for, but for a lot of people, it's kind of overwhelming because especially when you're a photographer already, and these are quite similar fields, people tend to think they have to reach a certain level at first because you've already learned how to use a camera. You've already kind of delved into lighting and the composition and stuff. So you almost feel like when you go into video, you kind of need to be a bit good already, well, it's absolutely not the case. It's a completely different thing. I would just suggest finding something you like to watch and blend them together. Simple as that.
Cool. All right, so let's jump onto your laptop.
Yes.
And we're going to have a look and go through some basic editing skills.
Okay, so we've teleported inside of Premiere Pro. Don't worry, it will look daunting at first, but it really isn't. I'm going to just go through how to create a really quick, just 10 something second cut on the timeline, and then we'll take a clip into After Effects and we'll add some tracked text just to show you how quick and easy it can be. Now, firstly, what we're going to be doing is just quickly organizing the footage. So I already have my clips cut up and named just to organize them already. But for you, it depends on how you filmed it. If you filmed your clips individually, or then great, then you can just trim the ends and the beginning. But if you've done a very long continuous shot, then I would say just if you're in Premiere, for example, you can come into this project finder, double click the clip, and then create mark in and mark endpoints, and then you can press drag video only, drag audio only, or you can just grab the actual clip from here and drag it straight into your timeline. So then you can just go ahead and keep doing this system for the rest of the video. And this is just a very quick and easy way to get the right clips that you want in your timeline. You can simply just grab your footage and then drag it into a timeline, but then the clip's super long and you've got to go through and then you have to cut it up and stuff. And if you've already got a lot of clips on your timeline, it can get really packed and confusing and difficult. So I think it is good to just look at your footage in this timeline here and think, okay, here's pretty nice. It shows the man looking into the woman, and then the woman kind of reacting. That's the kind of thing we want to show. It's much better that we show that instead of just kind of showing them, walking, because the walking's not really showing much. We want to see an action, and we want when someone's watching it, they want to see something happening, It's always that you kind of want to take something back from every shot you see. So let's start off by just, you know, chucking this clip in the timer and then looking at each other. Awesome. Before we continue going ahead, I want to quickly just organize my footage into some bins. And this is something that you can do to, you know, keep everything nice and organized and make sure that you know where everything is. So right now we're going to incorporate these clips of this couple basically walking in this forest with a photographer basically talking about how the product they used to take the photos helped them. So I'm going to just simply sort it out with couple clips, if I can type properly, couple clips. I'm going to create another bin called photographer and then another bin called audio, because I will have a music track playing underneath. And then if you want to make this like section larger, you can just double click the project and then you can come through, highlight everything, and then you can press command to basically unhighlight the things you don't want. And then you can drag them all into the bins. Simple as. And you can double click this and come back out. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add in one more clip to basically show them walking. So I think we'll add this one where they start walking and then stopping, because I think it shows a nice continuity. So we'll put our in point there and our out point there, and then we'll just drag in the clip. You might notice though that they are walking on opposite sides. So what we're going to want to do now actually is flip the second clip. So all you can do here is you can come into effects and then you can just simply type flip. And depending on the editing software you're using, it might be different. You might have to invert the scale, and I would recommend watching a tutorial online for whatever like software you're using. Okay, so now that we have our clips organized and we have our first shots here, what we're going to actually do now is we're going to find another clip that we want to add in. So here I have this second clip of the couple walking and then stopping and then stopping. And the reason why I like this one is because it just kind of, you know, it shows the couple walking, it shows them stopping. It's a good way to almost make the story flow. But now, so what we'll do now is we'll drag this in and we'll play next to each other. You know, immediately you can tell, you know, something's working, but there's obviously something that's absolutely not working. And that is that immediately they're standing on opposite sides. So what we're going to want to do is come into here and go into effects and then hit and then type in flip, and it'll be completely different depending on what software you're using. You might be using a software that doesn't have a flip option, and what then you might have to do is invert the horizontal scale. But I would recommend searching up like a tutorial or searching up on like any web browser on how to do that for your software. So what we're going to do on Premiere is now hit horizontal flip to invert the clip, and now it looks better. However, there is still something jarring about it, and it's that, you know, he's looking at her, she's laughing, looking at him, and then the next one they're both facing forward. So it's like, okay, well, how can we fix that? In general, when you run into something like this, you could add in a shot in between. So for this instance, it could be a shot of, say, some birds flying to almost show that the time is still moving. But for this shot in particular, we're going to come here and we're going to add this section of the photographer talking. And what I'm going to quickly do is find where the best part is, and then we'll cut to where I find it.
Radisson. Hi, I'm Captain Radisson.
So I think in this instant, the best cut is literally going to be right at the end. So we're going to put our in points and then we're going to put our out points like here. It's okay, we can adjust it soon. We're gonna start by not doing that. We're gonna grab the full clip and we're gonna place the clip above. Depending on on what like resolution your clip was shot in, you have to adjust the scale. So for this, as it was shot in 4K and I did it on a 1080 timeline, I'm going to have to put the scale to 50. And now that it's on the timeline, depending on what software you use, you should be able to see the waveform at the bottom. And this is just a great way to just quickly know where the clip starts and ends. You can just cut just before the wave point, the waveform, and then you know that where it cuts to it, you're gonna have the lady talking. Now, going back to these first 2 clips of the couple walking, we can tell that it just jumps. It feels a bit like the continuity is not great. It is a bit jarring. That's not what we want. Okay, so what can we do? Well, we can actually put this clip of Kathy speaking in between. And there are 2 types of cuts we can actually do to make this clip better. And you might have heard them. They're called J and L cuts. Simply put, they are just ways of cutting where the audio either starts before the clip is shown or after the clip is shown. So in this instance, we could take the bit of her saying, "Hi, I'm Kathy Weatherston," and put it in front of this first clip, and then just this in Premiere, it links the clip to the audio. So right now I'm just going to hit unlink so that we can move the clip and it won't move the audio, and then we can put the clip of Kathy second. So you see how now it starts with her explaining her name, and then it cuts to the next part of her talking. If you feel like that's too much before, you can adjust it to just be, "Hi, I'm," and then when she says Kathy Weatherston, you can grab both of these and move them across. So it looks more like this.
Hi, I'm Kathy Weatherston. I'm a wedding honeymoon.
See? And then, so that is a J cut. And the reason why it's called J cut is because if you was to draw a line, it looks like a J. It's I don't know who came up with it, but it's pretty, it could be it's a pretty good way to know. But yeah, and then for an L cut, it's virtually the same thing, just on the opposite side. So what we have, so I think here is probably the best place to put the L cut, because she says wedding and you want photographer, and this footage, now whether you believe it or not, is actually meant to be a wedding, a very Irish wedding. So it's a great way to link what she's saying with the footage itself. So
Hi, I'm Kathy Weatherston. I'm a wedding and newborn.
so you see there, like when it cuts to Kathy speaking, it's almost showing time passing. So that jump between them looking at each other and then looking forward isn't as jarring as it was when it was together. So
Hi, I'm Kathy Weatherston. I'm a wedding and newborn photographer.
it's just a very nice technique that you can use to make the time pass and make a clip more engaging.
Right. Thank you, Bayleigh, for this quick demonstration. And there was definitely some golden nuggets in there as far as tips are concerned. Now, if people are looking at this and thinking like, "Oh my God, this is a lot," but on some AI tools out there that can do most of that heavy lifting for me, what AI tools are actually most useful for photographers in this case?
So for me, there are a few AI tools that I actually do use. I think the most important one, and actually it doesn't really tie into video editing, to be completely honest, but I'm being honest, the one I use the most is this AI tool called Adobe Podcast, and it can turn almost any audio into just professionally recorded sounding audio. It's honestly amazing. And even things that are already recorded pretty well, I've still run through it anyway, just to make sure it's all like just perfect. That is an AI tool that I think is great. There are a lot of AI tools inside of a lot of the Adobe software, like for example, RotoBrush. That if you don't know what RotoBrush is, or rotoscoping, it's essentially where you mask out subjects. So say if you had a person in front of just a background, and the background was like a brick wall, for example, but you wanted to have some text like behind them, you would have had to sit there and frame by frame rotoscope it out using like masking and pen tools and stuff. But a few years back, Adobe implemented a thing called RotoBrush, which was basically this thing that it would just detect what the subject was if you like brushed slightly over them. Like you could brush over, for example, the middle of my hand, and it will detect the rest of it. And over the years, it's gotten better and better and better. And now I think it's at like RotoBrush 3. And there's a lot of like AI in that which is used to detect whatever it is that you're trying to mask out.
And traditionally, lightsabers would be a good example for
Yeah.
rotoscoping.
Yeah. Their lightsabers are very prevalent. What's the word?
Because you see it in a lot of YouTube videos. It's a relatively easy thing to do, and even I did that years ago. Just
I think that is the go-to that people do when they're trying to test out editing software.
Exactly.
Star Wars and any sort of like superhero film kind of.
So, what AI features save the most time in general?
Well, when it comes to editing, for example, like Premiere or Final Cut, there's not an abundance of AI tools that help, like cutting, for example. Obviously, I explained earlier that iMovie has a feature that allows you to import a bunch of footage and it will create like a cut for you. And then it lets you go back and edit the cut and, adjust timings and clips and stuff, which is pretty good, but it's not, perfect. But there are some websites and apps and stuff that are separate from, for example, the Adobe Suite that let you do more niche things. Like there's a thing called Opus, and it basically allows you to cut down, for example, podcasts into short form content. It will detect key moments. Actually, there is something that I use as, technically speaking, AI to edit. In Premiere, they have a very, very good transcribing feature.
Right.
It allows you to transcribe basically any audio that's on your timeline. And then there's a text edit feature where you can press on the words in the transcription and it will take you and you can cut it. So you can remove words and the ums and the blank spaces just through text form, and it translates it into video. That's something I use a lot for example, tutorial content where I have a script and then I can go and take out takes or adjust timings. And that's what that transcription is all about. I can assume AI powered, like most things nowadays. That is a great feature. There are a lot of for upscaling and color grading tools, such as Avoto for photographers and Topaz. These are things that basically allow you to use AI to upscale and enhance like a video or photos. Say you might have something in 1080p, but you want it in 4K. Well, it can do it for you, and you can adjust the settings a lot and try and make it as perfect as possible. But yeah, those are some AI tools.
So, can artificial intelligence replace video editors, do you think?
Right now, no, I don't think so. But in the future, I can see it taking some more stuff. I think it's more for example, rotoscoping was originally a more long, tedious task, which is now, if you want to make something perfect, you still have to rotoscope. You can't get around it using magic brushes and roto brush and this, and it just doesn't work. Unless you have a green screen, you're gonna have to sit there and manually key out each frame. But for most people, they don't need it to be ultra perfect. They just need it to be good enough or to the point where the average person isn't gonna notice. I think that these are the kinds of aspects of editing that AI will kind of take over. So people already developing plugins and scripts and stuff for Premiere and for After Effects, which basically allow you to almost generate graphics. So it's not generation in the sense that it uses credits and stuff to generate images and it uses other images to learn from. It's more very, very intense algorithms that already have an abundance of like word prompts already inputted into it. Like for example, in After Effects, there's a new one that allows you to type in like, make me a dynamic background using circles, and it will create a background out of shape layers and all After Effects effects. Like it's nothing's outside of After Effects. It all happens in After Effects. And it lets you do all of that. It doesn't use like credits or whatever. It's just all done inside. And people are making more of these. So things like that, I can see these things aren't perfect at all, and they do it to a very like quite a low level at the moment. They're not very like intuitive, but I can see that those aspects getting better. At some point, yeah, there might probably be a button in Premiere which you can hit press and it will scan through all of your footage and create you an entire like cut video. But I just even if it gets to the point where it can do that, I still think it just won't be perfect. I think it might be good for giving you, sometimes it can be daunting to start a project, like when you have so much footage and you have so much audio and stuff and you just don't know really where to start. I think maybe it can be a good little nudge because you can get like maybe in however many years time, it can create like a rough timeline maybe, but I just don't think it's going to be able to do the editing. Editing is so complex and there's so many creative decisions involved where you have to still put your input and you have to be able to at least know what's on your timeline to even edit it.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the impacts that taking on video can have on your business. Do you think that, how does video lead to more bookings, for example, just the ability to shoot and edit video?
Well, I think the main point is just that if you, as a photographer, if you know how to edit videos, that's already just more opportunity in general. If all you can do is take photos, which is, amazing, it's great, it's an awesome thing to be able to do, you're limited. The same way that, like, if you're a photographer and if you're also a voice actor, then there's just more opportunities there as it is. It's the same with video editing. If you know how to edit a video, there's more opportunity. And I think for some people as well, like, as I said earlier, when people can do a lot of things themselves, but to a very low beginner level, they expect the professionals to kind of be able to do everything as well, but to a high level. But I think being able to have an understanding of video editing it will just help you land more jobs and it just makes you seem more approachable. And even if you have to work with video editors, you can then understand their process a bit more and understand, what it takes to edit a video, and it just makes you a better person to work with.
So what advice would you give somebody who's a little bit hesitant when it comes to taking on video?
Just dive into it. Like, simply put, like, don't overthink it. The worst thing you can do is sit there, overthink it and overplan it. You have to just just dive into it and just begin. Otherwise, you'll just waste time. You'll waste energy. I think even if what you create isn't amazing, you've still made it and there's something that you can look back on and improve. So I think just don't hesitate and just find what you're super passionate about, what you're into, and just do it. And as I said earlier, take something that you like watching, something you're into, and smash them together and see what you can make.
All right, cool. Let's finish this off with a rapid fire
Awesome.
round. Best beginner editing software?
Premiere, I guess.
Slightly biased, maybe.
Biased because I use it, but for beginners, no. Okay, you know what? If you're on Apple, iMovie.
Right.
But if you're trying to really get into editing, then Premiere.
Cool. One skill to learn this week?
Cutting clips in sync with music or audio.
Cool. Biggest mistake photographers make?
Not starting.
That's a good one. Mobile or desktop editing?
Desktop.
Cool. Best platform for video content?
YouTube.
Okay. And I think one of the questions that many people ask themselves, like, how long should videos be?
Depends.
Right. Most underrated editing skill?
Motion graphics.
Okay. What's the future of video for photographers?
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Do you think, what will be the impact on photographers?
It will help improve photographers in many ways than you might not realize. I think as a photographer, you'll gain more jobs. You'll actually maybe look at your photos in a different way, and you might think more about how you can incorporate photos in video and how you can take your photography to the next level. And you can create some really, really cool content out of being a photographer. You could, there might be someone actually watching this that's thought to themselves they want to make like a YouTube channel documenting their process of photography. And now they're going to come out of this thing and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to start making content about me being a photographer. That's why I said good.
Right. Okay. And the last one piece of advice for 2026.
Just dive into it. Time is moving so rapid and so fast that you don't want to be waiting around and not doing what you want to do. Just get straight into it. And don't be put off by everyone doom and glooming AI. Like, obviously it's not, it has its drawbacks, it has its positives, whatever, but there is still everything. All of this is still incredibly fun, and there's still not, for me, I still do the same stuff I did 5 years ago. Like, not much has necessarily changed in that regards. If anything, I enjoy it more now. So I make more money doing it now.
Cool.
But yeah, just get straight into it, and don't let anything or anyone put you off doing it.
Fantastic. So there you have it, video editing for photographers in 2026. And hopefully what you've taken away from this is that this isn't about becoming a filmmaker overnight. It's about adding another tool to your skill set that can generally move the needle for your business. Because at the end of the day, video gets attention, and attention leads to opportunity. A huge thank you to Bayleigh for coming on the show and sharing so much insight, especially breaking things down in a way that makes this feel accessible rather than overwhelming. Now, if you've been putting off learning video editing, maybe this is the moment you just start. Keep it simple, shoot something, edit something, and build from there. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might find it useful. And as always, you can support the show over at buymeacoffee.com/camerashake, and check out the latest merch at camerashakepodcast.com. And if you want to keep learning and developing your skills as a photographer, I'd recommend checking out this next episode right here. And as always, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you next Thursday.